Hello there and welcome back to the channel We Don't Know Why. My name's Trey and we're here for the 5th episode of Treys Car Talks. It's been a little while. I apologize for that. I know I am a couple weeks late on a video. Life it gets busy. Not to make too many excuses for myself, as I know there are many people out there who have done the full-time YouTube and full-time jobs and family and all that stuff and have made it work. I don't know. I'm not as motivated as those individuals, I guess I should say. But anyways, putting that aside, we're going to get you a video now. It should be it'll be 3 weeks. Because it'll be next Monday, which should be the 15th, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what. I honestly have no idea what day it'll be. I believe it'll be the 3rd week of February, though, or maybe the 2nd week of February. I don't know. Anyways, it'll come out on a Monday. Not now, because today is Thursday. It's a couple days. Oh, God, okay. We're already starting off bad here. I hope you guys stay tuned here, okay? I know sometimes you get rambling and you want to click off. Just hang on with me here, okay? This is an important one. So, what we're going to talk about today is something that has been bugging me for a while, and it's kind of a combination of a few topics. I don't know what in the hell I'm going to title this, because honestly, it's just it's a heck of a conversation to be having, and I don't know what kind of title would even best fit this. But we're going to start with something that I've done recently, a change that I've made in my life, that I think is a change for the better. So I have never been particularly religious, okay? I mean, pretty much ever. That's just not something I've ever done. I've been to church as a kid when your parents want to go or whatever else, but I've never been particularly religious, and my family has never been, like, at least my immediate family, like, my parents and stuff like that. I would say my dad would consider himself religious. My mother would not consider herself to subscribe to a particular religion. But anyway, so I kind of had a neutral space, I should say, when it came to religion. And I just decided a couple weeks ago, I was like, what if I went to church? What if I started going to church on Sundays, right? Because we have so much negativity in our day-to-day. And I had been talking to friends and family about the kind of generational problem that Gen Z has been having. And yeah, I'm part of Gen Z, born in 2001, kind of in the entire range of Gen Z, but yes, I'm a Gen Zer, which I know a lot of people immediately discount Gen Z just because they feel that they're inadequate in some way or another, whether that's emotionally, intellectually, whatever it is, culturally, socially, I don't know. But I think it is a very standard response to hear Gen Z and think, wow, a bunch of fucking idiots or something, which is brutal, but also has some merit. I totally understand where that comes from. And I think, it's kind of interesting to see that divide there, because I don't think there's really ever been another time in the last, 100 years where one generation just thought the other one was completely stupid. So that's kind of neat, I guess. But anyways, I've been having conversations with friends and family about this Gen Z problem, which we're going to dive more into as we go here. And I just realized, like, how much shit there is. I'm very politically focused myself. I like to stay in tune with politics. I like to hear all that. There's a lot of negative news there. And then just in general, like culturally, just around, whether it's your friends and family or it's on social media or whatever it is, there's just a lot of negativity out there, and it's really invasive and it's horrible, and I think it leads a lot of people to having these mental problems, depression and anxiety and stuff like that. So anyways, I have been having conversations like this, deep conversations, which again we'll get into, and I just decided, what, I need some positivity in my life, and although I've never been religious, I know a generally positive atmosphere, right? Should be church, right? From the people that are religious in my life, I know that religion is something that grounds them and can bring them that positivity and that purpose. And it's not always outright positive, but I think the overall effect is, generally speaking, pretty positive. So I had made up my mind I was going to church. And then after I decided that, I hadn't told anyone yet. I was, kind of skeptical. I wasn't sure if I even wanted to go. Um, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go. And that's when things started just getting weird for me. Some pretty massive news was broke, which I'm not going to get into, about someone really close to me that had never been heard before. And I was taken back, by this information and didn't immediately think anything, was connected. But that, that following Sunday, so this is just a week ago. Like I said, there's just been a lot of stuff going on, kind of lends on the video aspect why there hasn't been anything out. But anyways, this news comes out, and I'm like, well, I think it's a good thing I decided I need to go to church, because I'm like, well, after this shitty week I've had, maybe the Sunday service will bring me some sort of positivity. And we get there, and it is the exact message that we needed to hear. It was me and my little brother Braden went, and it was the exact message that me and him needed to hear. They were talking about loving your enemy in a more New Testament way. If you know anything about New and Old Testament, Old Testament was a little more aggressive. That's where the whole eye for an eye thing came from, right? It was kind of Old Testament speak. And New Testament, was more Jesus focused, and Jesus was always, love your neighbor, don't, and love your enemies, and stuff like that, which again, I'm not someone who's educated well on scripture or anything, but it was somehow the exact message that we needed to hear, which I just thought was super, super bizarre, and really kind of took me and my little brother back a little bit. Like, we don't go to church, we're not religious, and here we are deciding to go on this particular Sunday, and it's the exact message we need to hear. So that was a good Sunday, it was good. I went to church, and then I went to work, and felt better about things just because it was nice to be around, people that were feeling good, and things were good for a bit, and then this next week started, which is this week, right? So Monday started, and we just had at work, we had a massive job come up that we've got a tight time frame on, and we got stuff to get done, and I was kind of stressed out about it. I'm like, I've got, I'm working 2 jobs. I'm like, I don't know about this week. I think it's going to be a rough one for me. How am I going to come out of this one? We've all been there, right? And as this, this week starts, Monday was okay, right? It was an all right day. It was a full day, I worked a full, 9-hour day, which is not too bad for some and is worse for others. And it was all right. It wasn't too bad. Did that. And then Tuesday, this week I'm learning some new skills, drywall, some framing, house structure, stuff like that. So stuff that I just didn't know that I'm learning now. And my boss has a friend of his coming to help us, because neither me or my boss really dabbled in or do drywall or, structural repair or anything like that. That's just not something we do. But his friend does. So this is where it gets weird, folks. Like, this is where my week just has been absolutely bizarre. Which, again, I think I'm going to just loop back, here. Again, hold on with me, okay? I know a lot of people watch this for the first 10 seconds and they click off immediately because they're like, this guy has nothing interesting to say that I want to hear. But you're going to want to hear all this, okay? I promise you, all right? Promise. All right, so beginning of my week starts. It's fine. Monday's fine. Tuesday begins, and I know it's going to be a hell of a day because we're starting to actually tear into things. We have to tear the whole front of this apartment building off because someone ran their car into it, and we got to repair a bunch of stuff. So we start doing that, and I'm working with this guy that I've never met before, right? A friend of my boss's. They've been friends for just about as long as I've been alive, and we're just going. I get to meet this guy, super cool guy. I won't say his name because I don't know, how he feels about all that. But this guy is super cool. We'll just call him the cool old guy or something. I don't know, he's not that old, but we'll call him the cool guy. And I'm working with the cool guy, and it's interesting to hear him talk. He's very intelligent, very, just very intellectual guy. He's kind of a lot to handle. He's loud, he's rambunctious, and God, has the mouth of a sailor, which, I use more words than I probably should myself in terms of, cursing, but this was a lot to deal with. And it was a personality type that I hadn't had to deal with in a while, so that was kind of new. But I thought, I'm like, overall, this guy is great. He's a good guy, and it was just cool to meet him. So Tuesday was fine. We did a bunch of work together. Me and him worked a whole, 8.5 hours together, and that was fine. And then Wednesday comes around. This is yesterday. And I show up, and something about yesterday was just kind of weird from the beginning. From the moment that I started the day, something was just strange. Just have those days. So we go, I get to work, and we start working on stuff. We're still doing drywall and repair and all that jazz. And this whole time, the cool guy was talking about this girlfriend that he had, right? And I was like, yeah, that's cool, man. You got a girlfriend. Good for you. An older guy, he'd been married before and has kids and all that jazz, but he's found someone that he's happy with. And I'm like, that's super cool. That's good for you, man. But he kept talking about this girlfriend because it was just clearly important to him. And something clicked in my head. And I was like, I feel like I know who his girlfriend is, right? With almost zero apparent context clues. No names were mentioned, nothing. I'm like, I feel like I know who this guy's girlfriend is. And, well, long story short, turns out it's my dad's last wife. So it's my little brother's mom's boyfriend. Like, what? I was just like, okay, now process that with me, all right? Me, random guy, okay, meets another random guy who just happens to be friends with my boss, and also happens to be the guy that is dating my previous stepmother, who is the mother, of course, of my little brother, who I love and adore. And I was just like, this is freaking weird. What are the odds of that, right? Like, of all the things that could happen, we don't live in the biggest area, but we got 120, 130,000 people, right? The odds that that happens are just, they're unbelievable, right? They're almost no odds, right? It's almost impossible. And then it got me to thinking, I'm like, I'm really glad that I got to meet this guy, right? Because I don't have contact with my little brother's mom, right? Like, we don't talk, I keep in touch with my little brother because I love him, and he, I want to take care of him, but I don't talk to his mom ever, right? And I know that, she's looking for that next phase of her life and all that jazz. And I hear about guys every now and then who, maybe she had a date with or whatever, and I've just never met one of them. And all of a sudden, here I am getting the opportunity to meet one of these guys that has potential to be a big part of my little brother's life, and I don't even know it, right? So I get to form a completely honest and unbiased opinion on this guy from just getting to genuinely meet him and work with him as he is, right? Because if we had both known that there was connection there, we would act differently, right? Because people just have that tendency. When they know more information about someone, they're going to act differently, right? You act differently around your family than you do around people at work. And the more honest reaction, right, to see what a person is going to be like is how they are in the real world. And it was just, I was like, this is unbelievable. I'm getting the opportunity to form an entire opinion on this guy before I even know the connection. And then I get to learn the connection. And I get to be okay with the fact that this guy was, he's a genuinely good guy. Like, genuinely. I like the guy a lot. Like I said, he's loud. He's a lot to deal with, but he's not someone that I'd ever have a problem with being in my sibling's life, right? Like, at all. And I thought that was like, wow, what are the odds of that? And I've been processing that, processed it all day yesterday, and I've been processing it all day today, and I got to talk with him a lot today, and he's happy about, his situation, and he, really seems to like my little brother, and, he's looking for someone that he can, live his life with. And I don't know if, any of that's going to happen. I'm not going to say on that because it's really not my situation to comment on too much further. But I just thought it was wild that somehow I was given the opportunity to get more information on that situation, right? In some very strange odds and weird turn of events. And that leads me back to, going to church. Somehow when I decided that I was going to seek out positivity and maybe a little bit of enlightenment and some new ideas and opinions that certain things just started kind of falling into place, and it seems over the last couple weeks that the puzzle has kind of been just a little more if it's just the puzzle of life has been falling in place a little better and a little smoother and in a more agreeable way since I just decided that I was going to seek out something different, right? Because I never said there wasn't a God, right? I never said there was no religion or it was pointless. I was never an atheist. But I was always like, I'm not going to be the guy that comments on it. And I think I'm still kind of in that point, right, where I'm not going to completely comment on it. But I will say, in seeking some sort of positivity and a little bit of enlightenment, that things have just been different. And that is going to lead us into this kind of the big part of this conversation, in that Gen Z we have a problem, right? Where I think a lot of people are in the boat that I have been in, where everything is negative all the time, 24/7. Things just suck. Like, they just suck. Ask any Gen Z kid, and they're going to tell you, if they're being honest, that things just suck. Even the most positive, most motivated kids are going to tell you that their life just sucks, right? It sucks ass to, like, wake up in the morning, right? Especially the younger part of this generation. It was suffered less from people my age. I'm 21, people around my age, so 20 to like 25 or whatever it is, like from that 20 to 21 age up to the top of the generation, we didn't struggle as much. There was still struggle, but not as much as these younger kids are, right? Like, my siblings are a part of this, they're 17 and 13 and 8, and it's just their youth experience is so much different than what mine was. And even though we're part of the same generation and only a handful of years apart, it's so different. And I just thought it was wild, this whole situation. I've just been dealing with this all lately, like how different it all is. And to get kind of back onto that positivity stance, right? I think in having all these conversations about Gen Z and thinking about this generational problem, I had decided that I wanted positivity. And now that I'm seeing where positivity got me, I'm thinking, could positivity and some new ideas be a big part of getting this generation back on track? And I think that's definitely the case. Again, it's only been like a couple weeks for me, and things just have been so much smoother and better. And maybe that's a big part, maybe that could be helpful. Of course, I think it would be foolish to say that positivity is the only aspect that's, required to get out of the slump that we're in. And it's largely Gen Z that's suffering the most. But I know in general, at least culturally in the United States, which is all I can really comment on because that's my experience. I know there are some problems across the globe, but really culturally here, in the part that matters to me, being is that I am an American citizen, that culturally we're in quite a slump just in general. To keep it more focused on Gen Z so I don't make this a broader problem, we can always talk about the cultural slump, another time. But I do believe that Gen Z deserves time in the spotlight, and we should probably start talking about some of these major problems. So positivity would be the first step, I think, to really getting this whole generation back on track. And the second step would be a foundation, right, like of ideas. I think once you got, that may sound backwards, right, because generally speaking, you would start with a solid foundation, right, and build up from there. But I think we're lacking all the way back to the beginning, right? To want to build a foundation, there has to be motivation. And I think what could give that motivation is that positivity. And that's why I'm putting it in the first step. So the second step is to get ready and build this foundation. I've been fond of saying those who are based in nothing can stand on nothing, right? And unfortunately, that's a large swath of Gen Z. They're based on nothing. They've been told that religion is a lie. There's nothing valuable about religion or God or any sort of religion. Realistically, religion is not good right now, right? And they're teaching, that is taught, right? That's not a conspiracy theory. That's not me projecting my political views, my radical whatever. No, I mean, that's genuinely what it is, right? I mean, as a part of this generation, you'd think I'd know, right? And as someone who has younger siblings, it's even worse for them than it was for me. You're not supposed to be religious. And that's, I personally think it's a big problem. But anyways, religion's bad. Really, ideas are just bad. Any constructive sort of moral thinking is bad. And all that matters is the here and now. They have sucked this entire generation into being people that live solely in the moment. They live will to will. It's what they want that matters, not what they need or what could benefit them or what could benefit other people. It's all about the sole desire of the individual, right? While at the same time, they're splitting the individuals into 1,000 different groups, right? To give them some semblance of meaning, which is why I think people lean so hard into this LGBTQ stuff right now, right? When you have 25+% of an entire generation siding with an ideology that has only become a big deal in the last 15 years, something's going on, right? And I think that stems from this lack of a foundation, right? This whole generation has nothing to stand on. You ask kids what matters or why things matter. Kids my age, kids a little older than me, kids younger than me, for sure, nobody has any answers. They just don't. Other generations, at 21, you could ask, what's the point? And so many of them would tell you that the point is, I'm living for Jesus, or the point is, I'm living to have a family someday so I can be, a reliable parent, or I'm living to be a constructive member of society and help my peers, right? Every other generation had answers. Whether it was fighting for your country or religious or whatever it was, every other generation had a foundation and they had a purpose. And the one thing that Gen Z doesn't have is that. And that lack of foundation, of course, led us to needing that first step of positivity, because everything in this generation's existence has just been completely soul-sucking, and it's unbelievable because it's never happened before. It's never happened before. This is completely unprecedented. You can try to draw as many comparisons as you want and say, oh, my generation had it bad back in the day too, or whatever it is. I'm telling you, all right, especially if you're older out there and you happen to watch this, I am telling you, Gen Z has a very unique problem. A very unique problem. And you may say it's a first world problem or whatever, but it doesn't make it any less legitimate of a problem. We have a lot of young kids and a lot of young adults that are struggling to get through life because they have no foundation. So I think that's the second step, right? As a society and as parents and grandparents and friends and all that, I'm not a parent, but I have friends, and I know that I will do everything in my power for my friends and my siblings, right, to get some meaning out of this. And if I will do just whatever I can personally to show them that there is something to care about, right? That there is reason to have a foundation, right? And I have always been of the opinion of that morals mattered, right? That you had to have values. Since I was a very young age, there was a right and there was a wrong. And my parents will tell you that. Everyone who knows me will tell you that. I have not always lived up perfectly to my own standards, but I've always believed there's right and wrong. And of course, that's changed over the years, and I've morphed as I've learned and grown. But I've always had a foundation, and I've always found, although life could be difficult, because I was one of the only people out there with a foundation, and an idea that something mattered more than just myself and every whim, life was, generally speaking, less depressing than those around me, right? Who just believed that there really was no purpose. So I think we got to start, start with positivity, and the second step being this foundation, because again, people who are based in nothing can stand on nothing. The biggest problem we have is that, and you can see it, right? It comes out as anxiety. It comes out as depression. It comes out as social groups, all these LGBTQ, all these, all these different groups. It doesn't even have to be LGBTQ, and it doesn't need to be political either, right? Like, I'm not trying to make this political. I don't have any hate towards people that are gay or people that are lesbian. I just don't, right? Because I personally, that's your deal. You do that kind of stuff, right? So when I say this, I'm not trying to draw this political divide and say that I hate anyone, but I'm just saying we've seen a rise in people trying to fit themselves into, groups with other people because it's only the skin deep things that give people any meaning. That they have to be in a group that somehow matches their physical description or what they wish they were, right? Because that's all there is. All there is the present, and all there is skin deep, very shallow shit. That's all it is right now. And that's just, it's clearly not working, right? I think we can all agree, whether you are right, left, center, gay, straight, whatever the hell you are, I think we can all agree this is not working. What we are doing right now is not working. This generation is getting worse by the day, and the system that we have right now is definitely not working. And it all stems from not having a foundation. So I would just urge, whoever's listened this far, it's not even a very long video at this point, 20 odd minutes. But whoever's listened this long, I just urge you in your day-to-day, try to build yourself a foundation. If you're young, if you're in Gen Z, I'm 21 years of age. I'm in that generation too. Try to build yourself a foundation. Start thinking about which things matter, because living in the present like this is doing nothing for us. We are living in this mental world of paper mache. It's fake. It's held together with glue and newspaper and fucking duct tape. It's because there's nothing there. We grasp at every straw to feel some sense of worth in our day-to-day. And yet still, we wake up every morning questioning why the fuck we did that. We open Instagram, we open Facebook, and we think, this is just shit. And we look at all these people that have perfect lives, right? All these hot people, or all these, people that have been successful in business or whatever else. And we get more depressed the more we look at that, right? There's no motivation in that because it's still all skin deep, right? That's all it is. All these groups are skin deep. All these models are skin deep. And no one's based in anything. No one is standing in anything. So I just urge you, give religion a shot. It doesn't have to be Christianity. I don't care what it is. Give some form of ideals a thought, right? Something that will allow you to look at the world and see some worth past the TikTok video you just watched, right? That's what's important, And, for the older people that are watching this, try to first off, try to find some value in your own life too. I know there are a lot of older people that are losing that value day by day, right? That are becoming more unsure day by day that there is anything worth living, right? Or anything worth living for, or any reason why we're here, or any of that, right? And there are just a lot of people that are falling into that. So I'd urge you to find some value in your own life too. Find something that you can stand on too. And show your kids that there's so much more than what is skin deep. There's much more than your makeup or your clothes or your shoes or being famous on TikTok or whatever the hell it may be. There's just more to that. There's more to it than that. And there should be. I think, I'm going to just say this is 2 steps for now, And if I can make another video, when I have processed things more, I will. But 2 steps. Let's start bringing positivity to the forefront. And I don't mean a positivity where you're reassuring everyone in the things that are happening now, right? Because there's this sort of destructive positivity that's happened in this massive breakup of society where everyone's falling into their own little secular groups, right? That in those groups, they feed each other with positivity by reinforcing the beliefs that these people have, right? And that has been just as destructive. So the positivity is not that. The positivity is bringing to light the general positivity of life, that there is something worth it, like there's something worth it for whatever, whatever it may be. There's something worth it. And I think you can, each individual can pick something out, that is going to be that for them, and just hold on to that and begin to realize that, every day brings light, and that you can kind of see things in a different perspective. And then let's start working on that foundation. We've got to, guys. I mean, and I think the problem is a lot of people, when you start talking about religion and stuff like that, people tune out because they think you're being preachy. And again, I'm not preaching you religion, right? I went to a non-denominational Christian church on last Sunday, but I'm not going to tell you that you have to believe in a Christian God. I'm just not going to tell you that, because I think people get too hung up in that stuff. And what we need to be hung up in is just having that foundation, that moral foundation, right? We need to have it. And whatever it is for you, find those things. Pick 5 things. Just pick 5 things. Yeah, 5 things. But pick 5 things that are super important to you, that you may have always considered important but never given much thought. And think about each of those 5 things, right? Just give yourself 5 days, or give yourself 5 weeks, or whatever. Give yourself 5 hours. Just spend, a certain amount of time just thinking about those things that you hold in, to value. And why do you hold them to value, right? If the first thing that comes to your mind is your smartphone or TikTok or Facebook or something like that, that you hold that to value, you might find it very difficult to understand why, right? So then you might reassess why you consider that valuable in the first place. These things weed themselves out very naturally, right? And then if you're still struggling with all this, or you find yourself just pissed off at the end of this video because it's just another dickhead preaching about something that you don't think is true, think about why you're upset, right? Because I have done nothing to be... I've not attacked anyone, right? So I guarantee you there would be upset people. Assuming this reaches any sort of an audience, there will be upset people, right? So ask yourself why you're upset. Because I didn't attack anyone personally. Are you upset because the idea that there is some better way, somehow morally superior way of doing things out there that is not the way you've been doing it, right? And I think that's often true. I have found myself in positions where I have been upset at other people who are doing better work than I am on a moral stance. That's a naturally human thing to do. And the reason why we feel that anger when we hear someone say that something should be a certain way because it's moral, is because we all innately know that there is value out there, right? As much as this generation, especially Gen Z, would like to say that none of it really matters and it's all subjective, the reason why our generation gets so pissed off and so anxious and so depressed at all these things is because we know inherently, right, deep down, as a part of us that is way deeper than the skin, and a part that you can't touch, the soul, right? I believe in a soul, and I think you will too. You start to think about this stuff, because why would you get pissed off at nothing? You're not getting pissed off at nothing. You're getting pissed off at the idea that you might be wasting the little time you have, or you think that someone thinks they're better than you because somehow you know that the way they're doing it is healthier, is better, is more fulfilling, right? And it's not always easier. It's not always fun. It's not always super enjoyable, right? It never will be. But I think there is something to trying to live with some real purpose. So let's do it, guys. Let's start working towards a positive outlook on things, because we got to ditch this negative stuff. It's not getting us anywhere. It's so destructive. And let's start looking past the skin deep and start building true foundations on things that really matter. Not, having a rocking body or looking like a fucking model, or, being the best, on TikTok, having all the followers, getting all the likes or whatever it is, right? Or getting a bunch of compliments on your photo or something like that, right? Let's move past that stuff. We have to, guys. Because I'm with you. And I, as a Gen Z, this is to Gen Z, right? This is the people that are my age or younger or a little older. we can do better, guys. We can. And no other generation is going to be able to fix it for us. Okay? And we can try to blame all the other generations as much as we want, but this is a problem we're going to have to solve. So let's do it. I mean, things are less scary when you do it together, right? So maybe we can all just start having these conversations, stuff that is deeper. And I think we'll find a lot of healing in that. And I hope to, maybe a God or whatever it may be, I hope if there's something out there, maybe it'll guide us towards something better. And if there's not, maybe we can just get ourselves there, whatever it is. And one more note to those people out there who have been considering religion and think, oh, if my friends found out I went to church, I'd be the laughingstock, because I know that's the case. I know it can be, all right? Don't let that be the case. Do whatever you gotta do, okay? To get that positive input, that real positive input, not that skin deep bullshit. A real positive, valuable insight, right? Do whatever you gotta do for that. If that means you go to church, whatever, so what? People laugh at you? What does it matter? Make that decision for you, all right? And if that's just finding people that are willing to think deeper, and, sometimes you have to purge people out of your lives that are negative. I've had to do that, in the past, where people are just dragging you down, and you just have to get rid of them sometimes and find people that are willing to be constructive, because you can never make other people want to be constructive, of course. So anyways, I'm going to cut it off there before I start rambling and carrying on. I really hope that y'all watch through to the end. I hope this gets some traction. I'm going to try to come up with a banger title, and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do for a thumbnail, but I hope it reaches people, because I know this is just a conversation that needs to be had, and I know there are plenty of people having this conversation. I think the biggest problem is it tends to happen in a political stance and scene, and I know a lot of people are just turned off by that immediately. So let's try not to do that here, We can do this. We can have this conversation, and I hope you all listened. And if you're older, if you're not a part of this generation, maybe this gave you some insight into some of the things that we struggle, like Gen Z is just struggling with, we as in Gen Z, right, is struggling with as a whole. And just know that it is very different than anything other generations have faced. It is a true, valueless, soulless wasteland, and we're just doing our best to navigate through it. But we got this, guys. So, without any more talking, I do hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you watched all the way through. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe. We try to upload every Monday, with the exception of the last 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to try. We're going to do our best. This is Trey with We Don't Know Why, signing off. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day, night, evening, afternoon, whatever it may be. And I will see you guys next time.